Every Christmas Eve, we throw a holiday party. No one is allowed to leave for 48 hours. It looked like she was dead. I started to get anxious then. None of the things we witnessed had ever affected us this much. Usually some of us would walk away with some scratches, but nothing this permanent. I took a deep breath as I tried to ignore the voice in the brain that was screaming at me to get out of the house as soon as possible. But I knew that I couldn't. I couldn't let all of these things out into the world. I turned back to look at John, as Alma's skin began wrapping itself around his torso until it tightened and formed a weird, skin sweater around him. John started to gag and I looked away as I felt the urge to vomit. John began freaking out and I looked back to see him attempting to peel the skin sweater off his body. Every time he pulled part of it off, it began to bleed, until his hands and legs were covered in blood. He started to cry, scratching at Alma's skin as he tried desperately to peel it off. It did come off eventually, and John kicked it aside as he ran into the kitchen. I heard the faucet open as he continued crying. "Oh God." I turned at the sound of Ben's voice to see small elves walking out of the closet. They were dressed in typical green outfits, but they were severely deformed, with different sized heads, arms, and legs. We watched as they all headed towards the pile of Alma's skin. They began to pick it up as she tore off pieces of it with their teeth and ate it until it was all gone. Then they got on the floor and licked up all the blood before returning back into the closet. "There's only 5 minutes left until midnight," Ben said, breaking the silence. "Do you think it's over then?" I asked. "No," Mel replied. I looked over to see that she was pointing at the closet. I could hear footsteps coming from inside. "Do you feel that?" John asked. I turned, not noticing that he had come back from the kitchen. We stood still as I began to notice that the house was getting cold. It continued to drop in temperature, until my teeth were chattering. The footsteps continued even though nothing appeared. I rubbed my arms as I tried to warm up and began to notice a thin layer of ice appearing on every item in the house. For the next few minutes, the house continued to grow colder and colder, until I was sure that we were going to die. I could feel my heartbeat slow down as my fingers turned blue. My eyes had started to burn from the cold, and I could no longer move. Then just when I thought it was all over, it was gone, and the house warmed up in the blink of an eye. "Is it over?" I asked. "Yeah, it's midnight," Ben replied. "Where's Alma?" John asked.